all, that boy from South Carolina.
Good evening, everybody. The intro is still playing on the background of my computer, but hey, there it goes. Good evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I'm your host, Bodkins, and of course, with me is your boy Witt and Mr. Bobby Blunts. We're coming to you a day later than usual. Sorry about it, folks. Flight got delayed yesterday in Chicago, so the boys said, "Hey, we'll wait for you. We'll put it back and we'll do it tonight." So just got home a little less than an hour ago, and back at it, ready to talk some MMA because what an exciting weekend it was. We'll get it to Moreno, and we'll get to this coming weekend. But I don't want to keep our guest waiting too longer. We had him on a couple weeks ago. And in 1 week's time, he will be taking on Paddy Pimblett. Give it up for our guest, Mr. Audio Mike Iron Mike Chandler, baby.
Greetings, Headkicks and Haymakers.
Thank you, Audio Mike Chandler. First of all, how's the training going on for Mr. One Paddy Pimblett?
I'm at the top of my game, and I haven't been spending that much time on the social media or doing that many interviews because I'm that locked in.
You guys had a little back and forth at the pre-show at the press conference. He said Scousers don't get knocked out. How did you feel about that?
I got a left hand, a right hand, and a right foot that are going to have something to say about that. If you get my meaning. They may have not knocked him out. They may have not been knocked out yet, but that's going to change after UFC 314.
What's the strategy for Mr. Paddy Pimblett?
I'm going to test his chin. That's the beginning and end of it. He keeps his chin up high in the air, and I'm going to give him a lesson about what that means against someone like me. This is obviously the toughest test he will have ever faced. And for me, I'm just looking to get back in the win column and remind people of what I bring to that octagon.
Yeah, you think right now? I think you're the dog in the fight. A lot of people are picking Paddy to win this fight. How do you feel about that?
Well, he's got a big fan base. I can't knock the Paddy fans, and that means that a lot of people are going to be betting on him. It's not to say that I don't have my own supporters, but these betting odds do not necessarily indicate the reality of the matchup or the reality of what happens in that octagon. He's never faced a veteran like me, and I have a couple tricks up my sleeve that I don't think he's seen before that Bobby Blunts knows what I'm talking about. This is a new age. UFC in 2025, the rules are different. There may not be rules. We're going to see.
No rules. Bobby, you got something to say to that?
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I can't fault a man for getting every advantage, especially if the referees are not going to call the fouls. So, yeah, I mean, if they ain't calling them, have at it at the back of the head and eye gouging. If you're not cheating, you're not trying to win.
He said it. And, these are veteran moves. Okay. And I'm not going to say that any of these things have happened intentionally, but just listen to what John Jones had to say about it. He's the greatest fighter to ever live. And he acknowledges he's gotten known as someone whose opponents walk into his fingers. So Patty's never faced a gamer like me. Patty's never faced a gladiator like me. And I'm going to make sure he's looking for that exit sign when we get locked in that cage together.
Man, you know what?
So you meaning that you're
Audio
cheating?
Mike Chandler. That sounds like a plan.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to win.
Are you,
I'm not going to
Mike? Are you
tolerate a
admitting
loss.
that you're cheating because it's not being called?
No, not at all. I am playing the game that we are playing. You know, you asked me last week about 2 weeks ago it was the Henry Cejudo outcome there. You know, he lost that fight, point blank. Period. You know, it's that was the way that it went. So whether the punch lands, you know, on the temple near the no-go zone, that's not for me to determine. That's the ref's job. So, you know, do we know who's reffing the fight? I'm not aware of that, but has that been announced yet? Because that might sway the betting odds.
Are you saying some refs let some shit you do some shady shit and some refs don't?
Come to think about it, I mean, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I'm trying to think of a ref who just really tolerates absolutely. Can any of you think of a referee
Mike
who?
Beltran.
Okay, I could see that.
I mean, we gotta classify a couple of things, Mike, because it's one thing when you go in there and you're thinking about eye pokes, but maybe a couple strikes after the bell, that's not too bad, right? Is that somewhere in your game plan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, as in that octagon, you know, it's very clear on the broadcast, the clapper and the horn. Uh, in the octagon, you know, especially if you're not in the apex, we can't hear any of that stuff. You know, it really takes the referee. Again, I'll put it back on the referee. My job in there is to separate Patty Pimblett from consciousness. That's what I'm going to be focused on. If someone gets in my way, you know, because the round is ending, or because they think that a punch landed where it shouldn't have, or if my thumb goes in a mouth apparently and it's not supposed to have, it's not my job to keep track of. They say mind your weapons. My weapons can't be contained. So yeah, I think Patty has to defend himself at all times from all things.
He's coming off maybe his best win, where he beat Bobby or King Green, and he beat Tony Ferguson. So, like you earlier said, crowd is with him. He's got the following. What are you trying to do to take some of this shine away from him?
Well, how do we rate the Tony Ferguson win? Honestly, I mean, when I faced him, he was at the peak of his powers. He was still well in his prime. Sure, the defeat against Gaethje was tough. It was an early stoppage, I would say. I mean, can you really even call that a TKO? He was shaking his head. No, I'm still in this. And yeah, the King Green win was good. You know, um, I think there's holes you could poke in that as well. King made a great account of himself, and those tricks aren't going to work on me. If he wants to try and flying triangle me, uh, it is legal to slam someone against the back of their head on the octagon, and I think he needs to be aware of that. How do you all see the fight going? I'm curious.
I mean,
You
Mike,
know,
you're one of the best first round fighters I have ever seen. What do you plan on doing if this goes to the second round?
the exact same thing that I will have done in the first. My cardio is comparable only to someone like a Merab Dvalishvili. It's underrated, I would say. I mean, how many fighters do you see jumping up into the air with Charles Oliveira on their back and slamming them repeatedly? If the round had it ended in that fight, I would have started doing backflips with him on there. So I'm going to do the exact same thing that I would have done in the first 10 seconds of the first round until as long as it goes. And I don't think that it will go past 2 rounds. uh, in my favor.
Wow.
Mike,
I got a question for you, Mike.
go ahead.
The cool thing is, as you bring up strategy for what's going to happen in this fight, we've seen Patty in at least the last two try to display an array of training which had to involve him doing some wrestling. We know you as the guy to take it to the mat and possibly put him on his back. Like, you've got that type of wrestling acumen. Do you plan on executing more takedowns in this fight than you have in the past? Because we know you like to stand and bang, but in this case, if Patty shoots, will you be ready to teach him a lesson?
Yes, and I did not intend to make this a wrestling match, right? But in all of my fights in the UFC, there's been two factors that have kept me from using my wrestling more. One is wanting to be the greatest entertainer in the sport, which I continue to be, and two, every single one of those fights. And I'm not here to make excuses, but things go on in these camps uh, uh, that no one will ever know about until I've retired, right? It's as much as I've leveled up in my cardio, in my strength, in my conditioning, in my technique, I've also been leveling up in the recovery. So yes, as good as my gas tank was against Charles, I still am very sore about the way that fight ended. And the cardio has only improved. And as the former champion Sean O'Malley said this week, I will be coming in at least 70% better for not dealing with these injuries that, no one outside of myself and my camp and my wife would have known about. So yes, I will use the threat of the takedown, if not the takedown itself, uh, to get Patty ducking even more than he already does with his chin up in the air. And you know what looks a lot like a takedown attempt, an overhand right.
You're 8 years older than Patty. What do you make of the age difference? How will do you think that'll play any sort of factor?
Yeah, I'm 8 years older than him. I think he is about 8 years old mentally. All respect to the fan base that he has built, right? But uh, he's a child. He's living in a delusion, and I live in reality, right? He's calling Ilya Taporia hand sanitizer boy. That's that would be a sanctioned murder in the octagon where they'd be matched up. So I'm going to be using again my veteran savvy, my experience. I've been fighting hand-to-hand combat for 24 years. Patty has been, you know, uh, thrilling crowds, having funny haircuts, talking his talk for considerably less time than that, and he's never really been in a real dogfight. With respect to King Green and um, the state that I left Tony Ferguson in after that tremendous knockout.
You mentioned Ilya Taporia. What do you make of him coming into the lightweight division?
I like it. I'm not looking past Mr. Pimblett, but that's a great fight. Would you not all want to see myself, the real? I don't know what this is saying on the screen there that I'm not the real Mike Chandler. That's might be a typo or something. Would you not want him to watch him face me in the octagon? Imagine that in Spain. That's a tremendous fight. So whether he faces Ilya, whether they make him go through Charles, um, I would love to have that fight. If I still holding out hope for McGregor, I'd fight him even if he was president of Ireland. But the
I
next
mean,
best
Mike,
thing.
can I please give you some career advice here? Because you were just hitting on Ilya there. And I saw in another interview that you were talking about if you win this fight, that you would still be calling out Conor McGregor. And can I just implore you, there is a new Conor McGregor in this division, and his name is Ilya Taporia. So can we direct all call outs to Ilya? And just, Connor is running for the president of Ireland. I think we need to leave that in the weeds there. Sorry to
No,
cut you off.
no. I mean, you read my mind. That is exactly where I was going with it. It's the Conor fight is always going to be there, right? It's I don't think that goes away. But yeah, you are correct in that there is a new Conor McGregor following in the footsteps, coming up from the featherweight championship into the lightweight contendership, and I do think that's where he is going to be. As much as he said he's been promised the Islam fight, and I love the UFC and I love the brand. They could have very well promised him Islam after winning another fight. That doesn't mean that they didn't promise him Islam, right? They think, okay, yeah, you're going to win. Fight somebody else, establish yourself. And I get it from Islam's point of view. It's twofold. One, he doesn't want to keep defending against featherweights coming up. Like it's a potential hole in his legacy. And two, I think, and this is not an original thought by any means. I've been completely focused on this camp, but you hear things in stuff gets through to the gym. It's not crazy to consider, right, that Islam would be interested in JDM versus Bilal, and if anyone would be deserving to move up, uh, it would be a champion like Islam. As much as I would love to face him, and I think I do amazing in that fight. I think to Witt's point, my wrestling would give him serious, serious problems. I think my power would give him serious, serious problems. I would love to test myself against a champion like Ilia Topuria, particularly with the platform that he brings to every one of his fights.
Wait, you got another question for Mr. Mike Chandler?
Yeah, man. Mike, first of all, we're all big time fans of yours, and when it comes to what's going on recently with, kind of Patty's re-emergence into the realm of possible stardom, international stardom, over here in America, he draws a lot of fans. You know what I mean? The Patty the Batty calls come down from like, way up in the rafters. If we get in the ring, excuse me, in the octagon, like, are you prepared to put on a show to turn the tide, to wear that American flag coming down to the octagon and changing everybody from the Patty the Batty screams to, we gotta scream Iron Mike. We gotta figure out a way to do that. Like, what are your plans in order to change the way that the people watching the octagon live in 2 weeks will see you and will somehow change them to your side? Because I know that's got to be energizing, right? When people aren't cheering for you and they're probably jeering you a little bit, but then they see you put on a show, they see you land that left hook, and all of a sudden the focus is on you. Like, are you prepared to do that, or what do you plan on doing?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, right? It reminds me of my first fight in the UFC. If you recall, hardcore fans, people who watched me in other organizations knew what I brought to the table. But the fan sentiment was very much so not on my side. And I think that performance, I'll hit on it again, my performance against Tony, another beloved figure, right? Um, you can sort of be sad to see your fighter lose and at the same time gain respect and fandom for the person that separated them from consciousness. So that is the way that I see that going. Um, and I think uh, on one side, people love to root for their countrymen. And on another side, I think people just love seeing good fights and jaw-dropping finishes. And this is not going to be, you know, pity patty point fighting. That that's never what you are going to get out of a Michael Chandler fight. So I think as much talk as we can do to promote this fight, uh, what really is going to turn people's opinions on me around, even Patty's fan base, is the way that I finish him in this fight.
Last question for you. We get you out of here real quick, Mike. Your old friend Pitbull is on the same card. Any advice to him to give to him as he is, fights below you?
Keep my name out of his mouth. That's my advice. I'm not scared to go down to 145 for a one-time only Pitbull thrashing. He's coming out hot. He's showing Instagram direct messages, right? He doesn't want any part of this. I have improved leaps and bounds while he's been, fighting in other organizations, I have been sharpening my tools, and he doesn't want any part of this. And you know, frankly, I think it'd be tough to get the fight done because I defeat Patty. Who's coming up next for me? Is it Islam? Is it Ilya? Uh, he's got some work to do, but keep my name out of his mouth, and maybe one day, maybe I don't know how many fights he has left. I'm going to be here for another 5, 10 years, so we'll see.
Right until your mid-40s.
Yes.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
I thought you were going to say he's going to have to see you at the top. Oh,
He said it. He said it for me.
Hey,
Thank you all.
last
Mike,
one
we will
for
have
Thank
me.
you all for the time. Oh, please.
Go ahead, Bobby.
One more. If Conor McGregor were to ask you to be his vice president, would you accept?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the rules about that in Ireland, but I think,
I don't think it's even a requirement, so don't worry about it.
yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think I would bring a lot to that conversation. I've been an incredible businessman as he has outside of the octagon, and that would be we could get a lot done. I happily accept, and it would go a lot differently than our dynamic on Tough. We're not selling a fight. We're uh, taking back a country. So I think, top of the list, um, solving the issues that he's addressed. I would encourage him to look at annexing Wales, and we go from there.
man.
All
Not
right.
not
Hey, Mike,
only
we will have you back. Go ahead.
not bad. Now, I was about to say not only is he architect in the octagon, but he's also an architect in politics. I like that. There you go.
Hey, Mike, we appreciate you coming on. We'll get you back on in 2 weeks' time. After we'll let you get ready for the fight next week, and then we'll bring you back on, win or lose, the following week, if that's good with you.
Absolutely, and there won't be a necessity to bring me on after a loss because that is absolutely not happening. See you at the top.
In the name of the
Give it up for Mr.
GFL,
Audio Mike
protect your
Taylor,
neck.
everybody. Wu-Tang. The number 7 ranked lightweight champion, you have former UFC title contender Mike Chandler, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Wow.
All right, boys. Let's get into this past weekend. What a turn back the clock era for one Mr. Brandon Moreno. He just, it was just a 5-0. No, I think I might have gave one round. I don't even know. Now my brain's farting on even who the hell he beat down.
Steve Urseg.
Oh, it was Urseg. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Geez, it feels like a lifetime ago already. I had maybe Urseg 1 round, but Moreno 4-1, just an absolute beatdown. Is it to me like Moreno deserves the next title shot? What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, I would have no issue with it if granted, I think Kai Car France is already next and that's booked, but if you're talking about afterwards, I know they just announced the Sphere in actually Mexico, so I could totally see them doing that. But he definitely won the fight, but I did have it fairly close. I do think Ursag was just being a little bit too defensive, and he probably could have, thrown a little bit more. But going into that 5th round, it very well could have been a 3-1. My scorecard was more 2-2, but it was Moreno did everything he needed to do. But I do kind of wonder, if are we going to really get anything else? Like if he got matched up with Pantoja, or I know they just booked Manel Kite versus Royval, But when I saw that performance, my immediate reaction was, I think Manel Kipe can beat him. So that's not saying that like Moreno did not look great, but he really didn't show me anything really new. Urseg just seemed a little bit, tentative and getting going in the beginning, probably from the knockout.
Yeah. With your thoughts.
Yeah, man, it was actually one of those showings for Moreno that I like to see. You know, a lot of high volume striking, really good energy. You know, when before we got into the Pantoja trilogy, Moreno was definitely must see TV every time he touched the octagon. I think this was one of
Still
those,
is.
yeah, exactly. I think this
Is.
was one of those like I'm still here type performances. Big shouts out to Urseg. Bobby said it. I think Urseg was just a little, tentative in his fight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, a week or so now, you know how it goes. Fighters come out and say, well, in camp, I pulled my groin or something. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but it did look less. Urseg looked less engaging than normal. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a peppering from both sides, but a lot of times, we got a really good showing from Moreno, and let's not call a complete wash. There were some Steve Urseg moments, but I don't think he capitalized on them. In the third, the amount of significant strikes just pretty much turned the tide. And I think right around that time, man, look, it's not for the lighthearted. You know what I'm saying? When you get to those rounds, especially with a guy like like especially when you get to like with the champ, even you know what I'm saying. Even though we're talking about Moreno, we're talking about somebody who's faced the champ on multiple occasions, and I think he's really on pace to possibly do it again. We getting all these UFC Noche notifications and pictures and so on and so forth. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they try to slide that on in there in a few months, just like Bobby said, because hey, look, we got a good showing 2024, and it was just because of the spectacle in my opinion. I think this year they should definitely take more emphasis on the fights and less of the spectacle. But in the end, yeah, definitely big shouts out to Moreno. This was one of those events, one of those showings where look, he did his thing, and I'm happy to see what he's going to do next.
Yeah, I think it's crazy to me, right? Like it's funny how some guys have to win 2-3 fights after losing the title. And was watching Sean O'Malley, who hasn't even fought since he lost the title, and Marab has and defended the belt and won. And then Moreno here, I know he lost the fight to Royval. The last two times out, but he's looked bounced back, against Amir Albazi and Urseg. So, that's 2 wins in a row. It's like, do you run it back now? Bobby said that they matched up Royval, so I'm good with him and Pantoja after the Kai Car France. Moreno beat Kai Car France. I think he knocked his ass out, but if my memory recalls right, and then he had the Pantoja fight was very close. It was like a split decision. It was a fight, so it's like go ahead and they should have ran. To me, they should have ran it back right then and there, and they never did. So I would like to see him get the title shot, maybe hopefully at UFC Noche. For Steve Urseg, this is his 3rd loss in a row. Now it's like the top 3 dudes in this division. He lost to Pantoja, which was a close fight. Got knocked out by Kai Car France. Lost the closest fight. I thought it was, maybe, 3-1, 4-2. 4-1, maybe 3-2 Moreno, but lost a, semi close fight. Like, I think he needs to fight way down in the rankings. Give him somebody, towards the bottom, just to kind of build back his confidence and build him back up. Like he's lost to the top three. Give him like a Tim Elliott or Kai Asakura fight or somebody like that. What about you? What do you think of what to do with Mr. Steve Ursay now?
I'm in the same boat right about now, man. After 3 losses, and he's really surviving off of his name. He's surviving off of his past endeavors. Steve Ursay has always been a warrior. He's always been a guy where when we put him into the octagon, we're expecting him to do so much more. But just like you said, to lose to Schnell, we got the loss to Kai Car France. We got the loss to Pantoja. It's not. It's Don't get me wrong. It's a 3-fight losing streak. You know what I'm saying? It's a 3-fight losing streak, but it's a 3-fight losing streak to some of the top guys in the division, including the champ, the current champion. It holds just a little more weight to me that he went in there and actually took those opportunities on the chin. Now he needs a bounce back fight or a fight in which the scales a little more even. Do we put him right in there immediately and say, hey, what about like you said, Tim Elliott? We got Bruno Silva down there at 12. He's got a fight coming up actually. Temirov, Ramzan Dahir, he's a scary guy. He's up and coming. There's a couple of ways that we can kind of flip it. So it's not necessarily at Steve Ursay's advantage, but that he has an opportunity to still put on a good fight, in my opinion. It's not. Now, don't get me wrong. If you look at 10 through 15 on the UFC rankings right now, there are at least 5 people, like 3 people that with one good fight against a guy like Steve Ursay, they're catapulted into the top 10. You know what I'm saying? Because they are so low right now at 12, 13, 14, 15. If you beat a guy like Steve Ursay and maybe you get a Manel Cape win or something like that, that's going to rotate at least 2 or 3 of those guys out and put the person who beat Steve Ursay in just off the strength of a name. So it's not a win or lose for him, but he has to be put in the best situation. I would really, if I was his camp, I would really monitor the fights that he's thinking about taking. You know what I mean? I don't think you could just take any fight on this one, but I would really keep an eye on, like, okay, this one's a better matchup for you, not just in terms of winning or losing, but if you beat him, then you're not getting completely out of that top 15. Or you're going to stay where you are at what I think is at 9 or 10. So yeah, either way, I think he has to keep an eye on who he fights next and how long he takes. I don't want him to stay out of the ring long, even though it's been 3 fights. I don't want him to stay away too long. I want him to keep that fire going.
Yeah, Bobby, what do you make of Mr. Steve Ursay? What to do? Kind of what's next for Steve?
I mean, I'm not ready to write his obituary yet, especially because, a couple things. The UFC already attempted to do this. I mean, keep in mind he was ranked set to fight someone far, um, you know, less ranked than this, and kind of it ended up playing out where they ended up swapping out, giving Manel Kipe that opponent, and then Ursay, got to headline. He himself said he didn't think he'd get back here that quickly. It's just kind of a byproduct of how the UFC works with how closely they book these fights out and also the division he's in. I mean, you can go as far down, and I mean, no shade to Tim Elliott, but that is probably the most like I would say winnable fight or like more favorable matchup. But in the the 1 through 12, there is not an easy night in the office in that division. I mean, hell, you got Charles Johnson, who isn't even ranked, that
Yeah,
is not a tough night in the office there. Joshua Van is surging. I mean, it is kind of the one division where no matter what, if you're fighting semi near the top or even anything competitive where he is, it's going to be a tough night. So from that aspect, I would just say take what they give him. I do think there are some winnable fights for him here, but I hope his next fight is more of a natural matchmaking and not somewhat of a last minute, switch up and stuff like that. Because not saying that really did anything to cause, the outcome of the fight or anything, but it would be kind of good to just see him get the opponent he had offered, train through, and fight that guy instead of trying to switch up. And, he literally fought the Max Holloway of 145. I mean, we all remember Max. No contender could beat him. Like when they were matching up contenders against Max, when Volk was on his run, what was our
Yeah.
complaint? It was like, why are you doing this? You're just killing off contenders because we knew Max would win. And, Moreno is slowly kind of earning that. So,
The gatekeeper, right? You got to beat Moreno to get to the title. Like, the Bobby Knuckles was that
yeah.
way for the middleweights for a while.
And I almost like make that reference because, like, the Pantoja fight, I really don't see it going any other way. It very well could because, this is MMA, but I don't know. It's that division is so deep that I know they'll matchmakers will do something stylistically to make it work. But I really wouldn't mind the Tim Elliott fight. I think that is a decent matchup for both guys. So let's see if we get that. But
Yeah.
hopefully it isn't something where they wait, to bring it back like later in the year. Get him something within 3 months.
Yeah, real quick, just to kind of sum up the UFC and Mexico card. Manel Torres scorches Drew Dober. Edgar Chavez had a nice win. Rahul Rojas Jr. Unanimous decision. Obviously, we did not get the Joe Pyfer Kevin Gastelum fight. Joe kind of came out and he got sick. He said he got sick at a team food. Team dinner the Friday night, had to pull out. So no Joe Pyfer versus Kevin Gastelum. Unfortunately, hopefully that'll get rebooked. I'd like to see that get rebooked down the road. But any final thoughts either from you, Whit, on just UFC Mexico before we kind of move on here?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, this was a pretty good card. The names may not. This is one of those where the names may not have jumped off of the page at you, but it was made for you to become aware of what the Hispanic fan base has to offer for another fight card, which of course will be later to be named, like the UFC Noche or International Fight Week, which of course is going to be huge for both events will be huge. But let me just say this: can I say something? Because I missed the show before when I was down and out and I was sick, and I was like, man, I really wanted to say something. And then this, yes, this is about Leon Edwards, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, it is. Gotta say it. I gotta say it, bro. So can we just make bro fights where he's not being wrestled to death? Because I'm just saying, I know this is the UFC. This is the best of the best. You're supposed to fight who they put in front of you, no matter what's going on, and blah blah blah. Like, but bro, Sean Brady went out there and marauded this man and basically copy pasted the the fight plan right on to the idea of, hey, you're going against who? I know how to beat him. Let's do the Bilal dance. Let's run. And don't get me wrong, there was some really significant striking. The striking for my guy Brady that night was so on point. I was shocked to see it that way. You know what I mean? But when it comes to Leon Edwards and any type of wrestling, it's not happening. I want to see him have a fight with somebody who's going to stand up and fight with him. I want to see the Englishman fight. I am ready to see Leon Edwards Michael Venom Page. It's supposed to have happened years ago. Let's just have something worth us watching. I know he wants to be the champ right now. The champ, whoever the champ in that division is, has to wrestle. And Leon I'm not going to say he's incapable of wrestling, but sometimes when they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that also includes changing your fighting style. He is not, that's not him. It's not. And I can't lie. I think I would crumble up if a man versus me was trying to climb on my back all day. Yes, Leon versus MVP feeds families, and it also keeps the European TVs locked to the UFC. You know how big those two guys are. Like, I would have much rather watched that day. But don't get me wrong. Hey, it is what it is. The UFC fight makers are way smarter than me, and they put Sean Brady in there against Leon Edwards, and Brady basically wore him out. You know what I mean? I didn't get a chance to say that last week. I had to make sure I addressed it this week. I was extremely impressed with Brady's performance, but did I want to see it? No. I wanted to see some actual freaking fighting. Carlos Ulbrich, shouts out to him. Jan Blachowicz, the what is it? Not just the Polish hammer, but the ultimate Polish hammer or whatever he calls himself. Like, great idea. Kevin Holland, finally, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. He finally came in there and performed at the top of his game. Awesome. But once again, back to the top of the card. I just want to see Leon Edwards not be put into a fight in which he is just overpowered by somebody crawling on his back for 3, 4, 5 rounds. Ladies and gentlemen, I just had to get out of my chest. Thank you very much.
Oh no, you good. Me and Bobby pretty much did the same exact thing last week. Bobby, any thoughts on UFC Mexico before we move on?
Yeah, I don't want them to give Rojas Jr. a ranked fighter. The performance I saw, yeah, he won, but and granted, he's very young, so he has plenty of time to improve. I know 3 years is a long time away as far as catching John Jones's youngest championship record. But I have personally closed the door on that. Unless he moves up, which I think he undoubtedly will. You can definitely see the things that are a little green on him. Like, if that fight was it at the Dana White Contender Series, Dana would have said, "Let me see 3 fights, kid, and we'll see about it." I mean, we've seen him say that countless times. So I'm not saying he still can't be a star. He has really great star power. He hit the Carl's Jr. Burger and stuff, so he's getting endorsements. I love to see all that. But and I don't think the UFC is going to give him a ranked guy because they got people much smarter than me watching these fights too. And so yeah, I just really am more
I agree. I don't
curious
think
where
he's
his
quite ready.
ceiling is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I kind of
good.
agree with
He's
you. I
good.
think he's going to be good. I just think he needs more time. And we've seen him lose. Remember, he lost his second fight in the UFC, going up against grown men. So like it's going to take some time. I don't think he's already there, like to fight a guy at the bottom. But even at the 15 or 16, I think like he needs like 2 or 3 more fights before he does that. But we'll see.
I just don't think his
I
wrestling
do
is
want to
good enough for him to get by on everything else, like which you could get away
Yeah,
with 10 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm
Rojas,
in
yeah,
the
Greg
boat.
says Rojas look vulnerable. Mid-competition, kid needs time. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm in that
he's looked
same boat.
vulnerable a couple times.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think, how old is he now? Like 19, 20, something crazy? I think as he
Yeah,
ages, 19. Okay, I think as he ages and his body changes, and he's gonna be really far ahead of the competition in like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, your body, when you finally grow into that body where we just was like, yo, who is this weird looking kid? He's gonna look like a fully grown stylistic man shortly. He's gonna be going chee wee wees because his voice is gonna be so freaking deep. But it's liable. He's liable to take this type of information, these fights, especially at the loss on the loss column and put them into like that memory bank of how not to lose. He's going to be way ahead of his years in at least 2 more years, in my opinion.
And that
Yeah,
last
I'm right
thing
there
on
with you.
Mexico. Uno momento,
Right.
Mexico. Por favor. Joe Pfeiffer, I love you. Philly for life. But I hate this age in social media where like everyone thinks they need to like respond immediately. There is nothing wrong with saying nothing. It would have just
Yeah,
like played out fine. So not really trying to cause attention to it, but I really do wonder how the UFC is gonna deal with that. He does have, Dana's good graces, and hey, if he was too sick to fight, it is what it is. It's just very unfortunate timing, but I'd be shocked if the UFC does not book him outside America for his next fight to see what they got in him stock wise.
yeah, we'll see what happens to him. We did get some big news throughout the past week here. Roundtree and Hill has been pulled out of Kansas City, and in steps in Ian Gary taking on Carlos Prates. Prates was actually scheduled to fight next week against Neal, and now they are stepping in here on a month's time. Say what you want. I know Michael here saying, fraud checks, Prates fraud checks Gary. I don't. Say what you want about Ian Gary. I don't think he's a fraud at all. The man has stepped on short notice to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, and now he's stepping on short notice again to fight another killer. So, like, 8 dudes can fuck his wife if they want, and he can watch it all, but the dudes will stand and bang with the best of them and fight anybody who signs up to fight. But that was one of the big news. I mentioned O'Malley and
And who
Marab
else
got
is doing this besides him?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Who else is banging his
Yeah.
wife besides him? Oh wait, what happened?
no,
You don't know that.
taking undefeated opponents on like not even a full camp. Like when I knew that got pushed off, I'm like, oh, they are gonna do Pratis versus Gary, and I figured, oh, they're gonna put on another number card. Huge upgrade that this is for a fight night. You better be going to that.
I don't know. I love the Hill Roundtree fight, but I think this one has a little bit more, meat on the bone. I think, but I like Khalil Roundtree. I like Prates and Ian. I think Ian Gary is really good. But also we got Kayla Harrison Pena is booked now. With out of the fights that just kind of got recently announced, whether it's Prates Gary, whether it was Marab and O'Malley too, whether it's Kayla versus Amanda Noon, or not Amanda, but Kayla versus Pena. Which of these fights are you looking forward to the most? And obviously, we'll break them down when they get ready to happen, but just some of the fight news here.
All right, so I got to keep it funky, man. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm not excited about. I'm not excited about O'Malley Marab 2. Not in the least bit. This is a similar setup to me, just like having Leon fight Brady. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, Marab can decide to do something other than wrestle. He has a choice in which the weaponry is vast. You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember old school. We're all at that age. Y'all remember the Ninja Turtles, right? And Casey Jones. Casey Jones had a hockey stick, but when they later started showing them episodes, Casey Jones had a bat, he had a golf club, he had the hockey stick. That's Marab. Marab's got a bunch of stuff back there that whenever he's ready to pull it out, he can do it and he'll use it on you. I technically am saying that because, metaphorically, the thing that we always see him use and has triumphed is the wrestling. But I think the gas tank is his strongest strength, and Sean is going to have to show me. And I like me some Sean O'Malley. Sean's going to have to show me that he can withstand and or do something different with his wrestling. I know he was hurt. I heard about what happened in camp. He was a trooper. He still went out there. He didn't just, back out of the fight. He still went out there and put on for the money and for the fans, but he took an L. But so now he's going to have to show me. So I'm not as excited for this, but I am excited to see Ian Gary. Y'all know that Ian Gary was we were ready to see what it would look like if he had to face, a number one opponent so that he could be ready for a champion. He was in Thailand with his kid and his wife, who likes his trainer, whatever. I don't care. He was doing some really different stuff, and I think that I was ready to see the Ian Gary that's scary to everyone else. You know what I'm saying? I was ready to see that. So, going up against Prates, with about a carton of Marlboros in his backpack, I am excited to see exactly how it's going to turn out. And can, Ian Gary bounce back from injury and regain that speed he had, because he was headed to the top in my mind. It just was, what are you going to do? We were trying to see what he was going to pull out against Shavkat, right? What kind of tools is he going to use to slow Shavkat down? So Prates isn't Shavkat. Let's not confuse the two. But Prates does have a name, and he has been on lately. So if you could put
12-0, 10-0,
I
all
think
by
yeah,
knockout.
yeah, exactly. So if you could put a stop to that train with all of that hype that it has behind it, then okay, you've got my attention, bro. You can get in the driver's seat and you can ask for what you want, whether it be Shavkat or not. But yeah, I'm definitely excited about the Prates Ian Gary fight for sure, especially, coming off of the injury and looking forward to what he can do, because he was in his bag, quote unquote, and all of those training regimen videos and stuff. So I'm excited to see if he still has that same fervor coming off of a tough injury like he had.
Yeah, I'm with you on the O'Malley thing. O'Malley said he hasn't smoked weed, done any video gaming, jerk off, or anything since the beginning of the year, pretty much. So we'll see. He says he's going to be 75% ready. I just don't know. Bobby, what about you? Any of these fight announcements that you're looking forward to the most?
For me personally, there was only one fight announcement on April Fool's Day, and that was Ian Gary and almost said and Prates. I mean, that is the one that's okay, cool. I love it. I'm glad they pushed it back. If they put that on Miami, you got to give him some type of preparation and stuff like that. Um, I've known that the Marab and Sugar fight and the Juliana Pena Kayla Harrison fight have been on the ticket for months now. So
Yeah.
to me, I didn't have too much of an eye rolling for it, referring to the O'Malley fight, just because I knew, through my perspective, I thought that Marab deserved a easier Ruby after beating Umar. And I know the UFC normally doesn't work that way, but when you're looking at, like, Marab is at that point where he's fighting people in the division and it's all rematches. Like, people are saying, oh, Jan deserved the shot. I mean, he beat up Jan way more than he did O'Malley. I mean, granted, he won
Yeah,
both of those
true.
fights hands down. But I do think, it ain't hard to figure out that the UFC would love to have O'Malley get back up there. But I do think they are also throwing him a bone for not pulling out on that Sphere card, because they had so much money behind that. And more importantly, Marab is also asking for it. He was originally asking for Jan. So Marab wants to stay active. You give the champion the fight. But realistically, I don't see how it goes any other way, unless, you know, the injury was that much of a detriment to Sean's movement. But I don't know. Marab is a beast. So originally they announced MMA Junkie announced Kai Car France and Pantoja with that same line of announcements. And then no one else reported that. So I have a feeling that, that was maybe in the cards and they decided to move it. Now it might hit International Fight Week or something. But that fight is also on the books. Like I know for a fact
Yeah.
that's like the next decision. So just kind of waiting for all of it to fall. But let's be honest, it wasn't Ilya Taporia versus Islam. It wasn't John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And those were the two that we're waiting for. So, like, to me, the announcement was much more of an April Fool's trolling. Like, hey guys, we got an announcement. We're going to announce some shit that has been on the books for 3 months that we've had in our back pocket. And oh, by the way, we also like the Ian Gary fight, like that counts as a good announcement for me. So like I'm not trying to shit on it too much. Like he is right there. He did not need to fight down. He is fighting a guy that is, you can label him a killer with what he's being. But I think you know, to get this out the way, because I don't think we know how that fight was not going to happen. I was leaning towards picking Jeff Neal in the Carlos Pratis fight just for the stylistic matchup. And I got to tell you, I think it's an even better matchup for Ian Gary. And that's exactly what he saw on the tape and why he said, hey, give it to me. So,
Yeah, I think so. It's a big test for Parates for sure. And
huge.
like, kudos to Ian Gary. You can say what you want about him in his personal life, but the guy signs on the dotted line to just about fight anybody. And he's proven he wants to fight the very best. And right now, Parates is one of the best going, and it's a huge jump for Parates. If you're Parates, you take that fight too because Ian Gary's right there at the top five. There's a guy who's maybe one win away from the title fight. And if you beat Ian Gary, that's bigger than beating Jeff Neal. So so like that's so you take that fight if you're Parates, and unfortunately, yeah. So that's what I'm doing, Michael. Here, I'm giving Parates his flowers for taking the matchup. It is not a good historical, stylistical matchup for him, but he's taking it. He has a chance to put himself. He beats Ian Gary. In a few weeks here, he puts himself knocking on the title contender, title door, where Ian's not, that'd be 2 losses in a row for Ian. So it'll be a good fight. That's the fight I'm looking to forward at kind of out of the most out of those. Like you said, Bobby, we kind of figured all those other fights were going to happen. Let's move into
Prates is taking no risk taking this fight, in my opinion, because of how popular the fighting nerds were. So, like you said, easy decision.
Yeah. And if you lose to Ian Gary on kind of maybe a short notice type fight and, bad stylistically, Ian will point him out, I think.
He'll lose a decision. It ain't going to sink his stock at all.
Yeah. So let's get into where this Saturday real quick before we get up out of here. We're back at the Mighty Apex, baby. The glorious Mighty Apex headlined by none other than Josh Emmett and Lerone Murphy. We also got to shout out our guy Torres Finney making his UFC debut after 3 fights on the Contender Series. Bobby, I'll start with you. How do you see the main event going?
Can I give a quick Finney monologue?
Go ahead.
So, if you need any excuse for why to root for this man, like normally we always have like these complaints like, oh, you got to be kidding me. The UFC is putting a guy making his debut in the Contender Series on this. Like, goddamn Apex, what are we doing here? Not gonna lie to you, boys, I don't mind any of it this weekend. This is perfect for Torres Finney. This man might as well have been conceived in the Apex. Like you just said, he had to fight not 1, not 2, but 3 Contender Series fights. He was not on the Bo Nickel protection plan. Every time they matched him up, they wanted this man to lose. You easily could have given him the fight the first time. Hey, you pass him over. I get it. But that second time, and if you have not seen it, go back and watch Dana White Like the guy turned into a meme. Most people like probably have no idea even who he is from the look that he gave Dana when Dana pretty much said you would get destroyed in the UFC. Like you need plenty of time. So what Dana ended up doing? Well, plenty of time amounted to later in the season for the Contender Series. Finney came in, he smoked this motherfucker and stopped him, and then screamed at Dana from the cage, "Is that what you wanted to see? Is that what you wanted to see?" And ever since then, we have been waiting for this man's debut. And kudos to the UFC for putting him on the main card and not putting him at the bottom of the curtain jerker. But I will say, the matchup reminds me a lot of the reminiscence of them wanting him to lose. Granted, he is a 3-1 favorite, but Robert Valentine was the favorite in the tough series. Like if they could have picked who they wanted to win, it would have been that
Oh
man.
yeah.
He was coaching everyone. They literally want to make him into a Switzerland fighting nerd. You can totally tell they're laying all the same type of stuff. So these two are going to face off, and it will be opening up on the Apex. And I can't lie, I can't remember how excited I was to make sure I was there for the start of the main card of the Apex. Normally it's like, well, hopefully I'll do it, maybe I'll, do some exercise while watching it. I'll be locked in from the beginning on this one. And it's going to be a Tory Finney night. And on to the main event now. But I just had to praise him because, it's you gotta give this man his flowers for taking the hard road to fight in the UFC.
Amen to that. I like it, Bobby. Go ahead. What's your thoughts on the main here?
I was just about to tell you. Hold on, wait. You stole my thunder with this Robin Finney rant. I just want you to know because hey, look, everybody doesn't get 3 possible. Dana White wants to throw you to the wolf fights. Dana White threw him to the wolf 3 times. He's come out with a shirt on his back. And yes, right, y'all. I think this was around that time I was really into tough that season. Robert Valentin, everybody wanted him to win that time. Definitely went up against our guy Ryan Loder and took a tough loss. To the autistic Man of Steel, Washington Wrestling. In my mind, though, the Nordic gods are going to want to see blood. That comment, sticks out of my mind every time I see, Valentin, because like you said, he was coaching, he was in everybody's corner, he was all over the place that whole season. But this right here is one of those matchups where I'm with you, Bobby. I'm going to have to X-nay on the Ildren A, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? And kind of just at least just pay this one attention. You know what I'm saying? I might just have to watch it in the corner by myself and tell the kids, go outside and play. But in reality, I'm with you 100%, bro. Just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there.
Yeah.
Loving the Finney love.
Everybody loves Finney, baby.
And to be clear, I don't want either of these guys to lose. Robert is great too, but we ride and die for Finney.
Wait, who you like in the main event?
All right, bro. As we get to the main event, you know me, man. It's always something. Something catches my eye, or there's a thought like, hey, look, this is one of those ones. Lerone Murphy, all right, my guy out here, showing that English love like he always has been getting in these past couple weeks. I'm looking at it like this. Is this the one? Is this the one to catapult him into stardom as we get closer and closer to that second and third quarter where the fights are going to mean way more? But this is the stopgap right here. This is where the rubber meets the road. When you get in there, you fight a guy who's been ride or dying for the UFC like Josh Emmett. You better bring your lunch pail, boys. You better make sure you got your juice box. You gotta have a blanket. You gotta have a pillow because you could possibly go to sleep. It could be over for you really quickly. Right now on Tapology, as I like to refer to, 3,134 people are running with our guy Lerone Murphy. That's 70% of them who voted are going with Murphy, but they are going with a decision. But you know, everybody again, everybody who wants Josh Emmett to win is basically saying he's going to win via knockout. So in my case, man, I'm really excited to see Murphy. This will be one of those tests where you know he might not have to use his whole toolbox. He might just have to keep his head on a swivel and try to outpoint Josh Emmett, because we know Emmett's going to try and take your head off. All right. And if you are unaware of what happens when Josh Emmett, lands one of them big right hands, just go look at his highlights, bro. Go look at his highlights. Josh Emmett. Yeah, right. Hey, there we go. That's one of the ones me and you are both watching. Ask
It'll
Bryce.
make you want to go fishing.
Right. so better be ready.
Somebody you probably shouldn't say.
Right. Yeah. Better be ready, Ron, because this ain't the one to pussyfoot on. All right. But and if I gotta pick one on this one, I would pick Murphy on points, just because I think that the pressure would be on Josh Emmett to stop this younger, slicker, moving around fighter. You know what I'm saying? And I think that may overcome the idea of Josh Emmett, and now he's swinging for the fences by the middle of the second round. You know what I mean? But I'm excited to see it. Big shouts out to Lerone Murphy. This is your time to shine, bro. UFC Apex main event, baby. Let's have it.
Yeah, Bobby, what about you? First of all, we haven't seen Josh Emmett since that knockout of Bryce Mitchell. That was December 16th, 2023. So that we're looking at, 13 months layoff here.
Yeah, yep, ring rust, baby.
15 months, I'm sorry.
Ring rust.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't really consider that. I was trying to think of when was the last time we saw him there. I would expect Murphy to kind of, just try to maintain the distance and, like Witt said, probably just point him out there. Um, it, I don't know. I do think he is a juicy dog for sure. Referring to Emmett there, I think he's a plus 250 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably still favor Lerone and probably pick Lerone, but then again, at the same time, I can't. Was Murphy's last fight against Dan Ige?
Yep.
hmm So yeah, he struggled early in that one, but he was able to recover and end up winning there. But I do wonder with Emmett's power there. You struggle early with Emmett, and you might find yourself convulsing on the octagon floor there. But honestly, I do think Lerone is fairly used to fighting in the Apex. Small little shout out to why the fuck this was not on London. I mean, granted, they needed a main event, but fuck that. I just did a, Finney breakdown. Finney could have been the main event for this. I would not have complained. So, but, realistically, I do think Murphy is going to be able to dance around him. But Emmett's power is just so scary. It really gives me, a second thought there. And I don't know. I've been rough on England lately, so I'm gonna pick Lerone Murphy. But if this was a betting podcast, I'd be telling you to smash the Josh Emmett money line.
Yeah, I like Emmett's definitely a live dog. It's definitely worth the squeeze to put some money on him, and because he can put Murphy's lights out and at plus 200 something, why not? But I'm with you guys. I'm gonna ride with Murphy here. I think Murphy can get it by decision, but not a fan. Like, put some money down on Josh Emmett, folks, if you can, because that's worth the juice and the squeeze there. Wait, before we get out of here, we got any boxing news we need to cover?
At the moment, bro, we are actually waiting to see if these papers are getting signed. Of course, we're getting closer to the Canelo tune-up. Right now, of course, one of the main things that I know is happening is we're getting word, man. The Caleb Plant train. Somebody said Caleb Plant's name a little too many times, so we're gonna have to see if that Caleb Plant train gets going. Also, of course, somehow, some way, once again, we're having conversations about what is going to happen with Teofimo Lopez. It's one of the best fighters who seems to not get the opportunities to fight the top fights. This is why, guys like Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana White are coming together, because guys like Teofimo Lopez are figuring out ways to not have, or not well, he's not figuring out ways to not have the best fights, but he's not getting the opportunities, and he's already threatened or pretty much retired last year at least once. He's possibly in the mood to do it again, and then we're of course getting that Ryan Garcia Devin Haney rematch. Oh yeah, that is definitely on the table. Of course, Ryan Garcia is going. Whatever he took was not intentional. It was in, trainer's drink. That nobody knows that what it is, Ostarine or something like that, I believe. It was such a minute dosage, in like 32 parts per million, which I don't know if you know anything about drinking a cup of water. That's like having like 4 grains of salt in a cup of water, technically. It was ridiculous. So to say that the Ostarine affected the outcome of the Ryan Garcia fight is absurd. But since they had to go ahead and strike it off the ballot, let's go ahead and get it run it back. So that's what's been going on in the world of boxing right now. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of heated debates via social media. But once again, I can't really talk big about nothing. Oh yeah, wait. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Wait. Got to pause for the cause, man. I did not get to say it last week, and I had a whole shebang written up. Rest in peace to George Foreman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Real talk. Rest in peace to Big George Foreman. One of the greatest heavyweights to not get the acclaim in the ring like he should have. Unfortunately, he was a champion during an era in which the name Muhammad Ali was synonymous with the greatest ever. You know what I mean? Of course, there's Joe Frazier. Who beats Joe Frazier? When Joe Frazier seemed almost impossible, like the scariest thing in the world, George Foreman.
Down goes Frazier.
Right.
Down goes Frazier.
Who goes and takes on the impossible task of fighting Muhammad Ali in Africa 2 weeks after it was supposedly had been canceled because George had incurred a cut, and he decided to stay there even though he was having a really uncomfortable time because people were threatening him because Muhammad Ali was the figure that he was at that time, George Foreman. And one of the things that I'm going to kind of close out on is that in his own words, the thing that he was most unprepared for that happened to him was after the fight, where he lost consciousness, blacked out, hit his head, was rushed to the hospital, and somehow woke up screaming about the blood of Jesus and how he gave his life to Christ after that, in which he had no recollection of what he was saying. All he knew is that he woke up and everybody said that he was having that he he believes in Jesus and that the blood of Jesus saved him. You know what I mean? And they have no medical proof of what necessarily happened to him. It wasn't like a stroke. It wasn't an aneurysm. They really don't know what happened to George Foreman. And then after that, to come back at like age 47 to win the title again after becoming, back into the limelight from Foreman Grills. I don't know about y'all, but my Foreman Grill is popping. You know what I'm saying? Only thing the Foreman Grill is missing is an on and an off button. But damn it, if you're too lazy to reach up there and unplug the damn thing, that's your own damn fault. But damn it, George Foreman was trying to save us. So George Foreman had feats in the ring. He had time out of the ring. And right now, he's in the biggest ring that we know of. And, shouts out to his family and all of his children who, Yeah, winning the belt at 47. I was right. Yeah, 47, bro. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Right now, we got guys who punch in the heavyweight division, but it don't look like George Foreman punching. And he was putting guys out. It was scary. Those, like, if you go look at those old videos for, the Rumble in the Jungle and stuff like that, those videos of George Foreman hitting that bag 2 days later, the hole in the bag is 2 sizes larger than his glove. And he just got there. Just got there. That's normally that size of a hole in a punching bag normally comes from months or weeks of constant pressure or constant punches from like multiple people. George Foreman did that shit by himself, So to say what I said and to put it in conclusion, once again, rest in peace to his family. One of the greatest to ever do it. A great man in the ring, a great man out of the ring. Named, I think, 9 of his kids George or some form of George.
Yeah.
I you know what I'm saying? There's not much else that you can't say about the man's greatness and what he represented for the culture, not just in boxing, but in faith. And we're not going to get deep into it, but if you got some faith, or if you don't have some, you need to learn about it. I promise you. It'll go take you a long way. All right, that's it.
All right. Bobby, you got any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Well, I'm gonna go watch the PFL tournament. It kicked off right now. It's on as we speak. I'll make sure to report back how great it was. They are, production wise, they're moving stuff a little bit faster and stuff. I've liked some of the stuff they've put out, like pre-fight and stuff to hype it, but I am seeing some of the same old red flags. So we'll see how that goes. But more importantly, just enjoy Finney fighting on Saturday.
Amen. We'll be back at our normal time next week on Wednesday, folks. And we will be previewing UFC 314. That's right. Headlined by Volkanovski and Diego Lopez. Can't wait for that one. So that'll in next week. So make sure you tune in next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. We'll be back at our normal time. Other than that, folks, be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share, help us out. It's been another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. For my guy Witt, Bobby Blunts, I'm Bodkins. We'll catch y'all next week, baby.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.